Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Unique Peace on a Tuesday evening / Wednesday morning. I'll explain that in a second. Edition of Unique Peace. Today, my guest is Gemma Star. She is from Queensland, Australia, where it is about 10 a.m. in the morning, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings, literally. And help me welcome in Gemma Star. She is a poet and an interviewer of men to help men understand themselves and to help us ladies understand the masculine energy. Welcome, Gemma.
Hey, Janice, how are you?
I am good. How about yourself?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Good. So you are from Queensland, Australia. You're about almost a day ahead of us. So how's tomorrow looking?
Yes, hey, peaceful. All good.
Grace, I want to just shout out to Grace. Grace is watching on both platforms. We love Grace Grella. She is a regular viewer of the show and a fellow medium. So welcome, Grace. So Gemma, this is not the first time I've had someone from Australia on, but it is definitely always fun to have someone from another country on. And I definitely would like to know a couple of things about where you're from and how it influences your writing.
Oh, well, where I'm from at the moment, well, I've lived, 24 years in Noosa, Queensland, Australia, which is about 90 minutes north of Brisbane on the coast. Beautiful place, beaches, national park, river. And well, I don't think this place has necessarily influenced my writing. I mean, probably in some degree, but just my whole human journey, I guess, brought me into the writing space, which was only about just over 7 years ago. When I got a clear message to start meditating, and after 4 months of daily meditation, I just got full-blown poetry through me. And even though I don't meditate now, because I feel that I just embody that meditated state, obviously I can just write whenever now. Well, I don't make it happen. It still happens to me. But yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I feel like personally a lot of poetry is channeled through me. It's channeled through you. It's a lot of this is the message that needs to get out right now. And I do follow you on Instagram, so I see a lot of your poetry come out when you put it on the little posts. So thank you for sharing that.
I've only just started doing that, really. I sort of didn't feel it was part of my message, but yeah, I'm sort of getting there. It's, some days I feel like doing that extra step, because for me, the poetry, once it's written, is more a gift to myself, because I've been in that space, which is definitely a different frequency of the actual writing space. So once it's written, if anyone else benefits from it, great. But I've already had my gift, my reward. So to do any extra sort of on top of that is definitely, a sort of a choice that, I don't feel I have to do, but because I feel the content is in the writing, I do it sometimes. I'm stuck. Yeah. Let's leave it
Well,
at that.
either way, thank you. It's beautiful.
Because it's all on Facebook. I've got, probably about 1,500 pieces of writing on Facebook in my different albums. So it's been like literally the few months I've been on Instagram, it's literally about, copying and the picture and the writing the text onto, a square Instagram post. And some of them are too long to do it, so yeah, just go with the flow, whatever.
Well, again, thank you for sharing your poetry with us. And in addition to poetry, you also interview men solely. And I would like you to kind of walk us through that journey.
Well, I see it as something that I did now because I woke up one morning with a very clear message in July 2022 to interview 100 men. Because, okay, backtracking, for the past few years, let's say, I don't know how many, maybe 5 or 6, I've been very closely connected with Uluru in Central Australia. And very close to Uluru is another sacred site, which not many people outside of Australia are aware of, called Katajuda. And as I understand it, the Uluru is the feminine site and Katajuda is the masculine site. So obviously I did a lot of travel to Uluru and also Katajuda. So I feel that energetically and grounded at earth level, I was very much connected to both those energies. So when I got the call to interview 100 men, I did it. And, you know, I was thinking about it today. You know, if I'd have actually understood the time and effort it took to interview 100 men, I might have balked, but I didn't look at the big picture. And I just said, right, we'll start at number 1. And I got a friend of mine who has also, you know, traveled out to Uluru and Katajuda and started there. And I didn't even have the interview planned. I just thought, well, we'll just chat. But I see now in retrospect, it did follow the hero's journey. And that was a template I took through with me then, refining it for the 100 episodes. And the other thing is, I know through my own journey of healing and evolution, you know, it often with the best of intentions, us women try and help our men by telling them how to be men. But men needed to hear it from other men, their journey, because in all fairness, they're not really going to listen to a woman tell them how to be a man, which is right. I mean, we did it, you know, the best we could at the time, but no wonder it failed, right? And so, yeah, that was the other impulse. You know, for me, really, it wasn't a conversation. I was really holding the space, and I see now as the feminine energy with the open heart and the non-judgmental space and just allowing the men to speak and, you know, bring their story in for other men now to listen with 100 episodes. I mean, that extended into 39 episodes of Man Speak because what happened then is because some of the men had, you know, passions and experience and knowledge and embodiment in certain subjects that we couldn't cover in the time that I wanted to dedicate to Heart Warriors and their story. So I invited them back and we did a whole nother offshoot episode called Man Speak. So, but yeah, I mean, I'll probably still do the odd one with a couple of my favorites, or if I'm, you know, particularly called or asked, but definitely I see it as something that ticked off, did the 100, and Michael was one of them. I can't remember what number you were, Michael, probably about halfway. But yeah, so yeah, definitely something done and dusted now, and it's there on YouTube if anyone is interested.
Yes, I've watched quite a few of them. I do recommend them. And it's an interesting point of view. It's important for us ladies to also see that point of view.
Yeah, I
Well,
think a lot of, I mean, you know, with YouTube, you can see if it's men or women watching. And, you know, most of the times there was more women watching than men. And I really think, I know I learned so much just to listen. That was a skill also I had to practice, which I think I'm pretty good at now after 139 episodes. Maybe that's why I had to do the whole thing, right? So I could learn to listen. Anyway, it's but definitely it's a really good insight for women to get into men as well and hear about their journey from them when we're not talking over them or interrupting them or trying to give them advice. Definitely.
yes, definitely. So thank you for sharing that beautiful story with us. And as you were interviewing 139 men for these various episodes, you learned a lot about the masculine and the feminine. So how has that kind of helped you on your journey to peace?
Well, in all honesty, I was already into the masculine and feminine before, I started interviewing, because I literally did the 100 in just over a year. I think I'd done 98 in the 12 months. It took me a bit longer to do the last two, but definitely I just knew I had to do it. So some weeks I'd do 5 or 6. So anyway, I was well into the masculine and feminine before that. How has that helped me find my peace? By becoming more feminine. Because for women, once we find our peace in the feminine energy with a healthy, let's say, masculine backbone, because there's the divine masculine feminine energies, the healthy masculine feminine energies, and there's the wounded, or what's the other word? Anyway, the wounded energies and qualities of men and women, that if we're embodying those, we're not going to find peace, but if we can work on the healthy masculine feminine energies, and of course, if we women can get healthy masculinity within us that we know is always inside us, should we need to use it, and when we need to use it, we can soften then into our feminine. And that's really, for me, where the peace comes from. So yeah, that's how it's sort of expanded into my own journey. But definitely, since I started writing, I'd say pretty much aware of the masculine feminine energies, and it's just been a whole journey. It doesn't happen overnight, and there's so many levels of embodiment. There's what we understand about it on an intellectual level, and like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but can we embody it? Can we incorporate it into every situation in our lives? And it's 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. So there's so many different levels, and I'm sure I've got more to go, putting it into practice and actually embodying that divine qualities of femininity, knowing that, I have a healthy masculine energy inside me, should I ever be in need of it. We incorporate both too, because even within the individual, we have to set out the structure, but then we use our feminine flow and flow into it when we're not worried about how it's going to play out, or you're just not worried anymore, because there's a whole quantum science behind peace and embodiment, not just the masculine and feminine. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But definitely, it's very interesting, the masculine and feminine energies. And I really think it is a part of our journey, human journey to peace, to understand ourselves, understand men and women as a whole, understand our partners, our children. And just how we can apply that information to our lives, because everything outside of the human body is also masculine and feminine energy. I mean, you look at a lot of I know the Latin languages, Italian, French, Spanish, their nouns are masculine and feminine. Yep. The yin and the yang. There's a whole, it's not just us and what we're doing, it's the whole of the whole of nature and the planet and out to the cosmos. Everything is masculine and feminine energy, and the dynamics of it, and the flow and the harmony and the balance. And it's even, on a musical scale, the whole vibration and frequency and coming together in union. There's not just within ourselves as the individuals, not just within our relationships, but within all of humanity. How do we balance and harmonize those energies to find peace?
I agree. Absolutely. There needs to be that balance. And as you reflect on your journey thus far in life, how would you define peace for yourself?
Well, peace is actually like a quantum science. And it's true, that an adage that they say, if you want to change the world, change yourself. So I see it at this point, so many people are fighting to change the world out there, because once they change everything in the world to their liking, they'll find peace, right? So, if their kids are behaving, their husband more loving, their boss gives them a pay rise, they get the new car, they go on holiday, it stops raining, whatever it is, the war stops in, wherever it is at the moment, the right politicians in. Okay, when everything's in place, ticked and checked, I'll have my peace, right? It's never going to happen. No one's ever going to change 8 billion people to be doing exactly what we want so we can find peace. So what's the option? We have to find peace within us. So I see it as 4 different levels, like we find peace within us as individuals. And that is the balance of the masculine and the feminine. And also, there's a whole lot of stuff, like being aware of attachments and letting go of those. Expectations, they say expectations lead to disappointment. So, you let go of those. There's so many levels on the human journey and spiritual awakening, and human mortal healing, of the past, of the future, everything that we can find to come into the individual peace. And again, it's a daily journey, But then, so then how does our healing, and we know once we're on that journey to healing, our relationships do start improving. Maybe not overnight, maybe it still takes decades, but slowly we become more aware of our part in any chaos, and, our not needing to change our partner, and our letting go of expectations and attachments and freedom. We understand that love isn't bound, it's free. There's nothing more beautiful when our partners are free and they choose to be with us, right? So a whole new level of understanding of love. And again, it's evolutionary. There's so much to that. And it's one thing to understand it on an intellectual level, but to put it into practice. I say the intellectual understanding is 10% of the work. 90% plus is the embodiment. So, it's one thing to write about it, but are you doing it? Are you actually that person that, you're expressing? And I know I only ever write about things that affect my own journey, my own path. So exactly, my writing is an extension of me. And then once the relationships, and then you can extend this beautiful realm you've created with the peace within yourself and within your immediate relationships. So that also goes to your kids, your parents, close friends, out into the community. Then how are you interacting with the out when you step out of that sort of close family unit? Are you interacting at work or with the community as a whole? Because if you're peaceful inside and your relationships and family, you've done, work on that, you can take that out into the community. And then further on past that, you're taking it out into the world. So see how you can't, if you spend, and this is what they teach us, right, through television and protests and activism. Activism. What's the word? Oh, God.
It's all good.
Anyway, let's fight it out there. Let's fight it, and then we'll find peace, but it's never, ever, ever going to happen, because there's always going to be someone that, pisses us off. And unless we can actually witness that and bring it back to ourselves and find our peace instead of trying to change whatever it is that's triggering us, right?
Exactly. Grace is quoting, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me."
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful.
Excuse me. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. So, as you define peace for yourself, what are some of the ways that you find peace or bring peace into your life?
Well, you said, again, it's been an evolution. But if you're talking about now, today, I'd say I'm pretty much at a good point. Humbly, I'll say that I've done a hell of a lot of work to be where I am today. But what I guess I've been working on more the past year is, because, you've got the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical aspects. And we're all at different levels of those 4 stages. But to bring them all in, like if one is totally out of alignment, if you're really sick or overweight or, something, it's all part of the puzzle to bring the 4 of them into alignment, right? because we all know if we've got some physical pain, we're in our heads and we're not going to find peace because we're in some sort of pain, or if we don't like some part of our body and everything. So I finally found the food choices that work for me. A year or so ago, I'd gone on pretty much all fruit. And because some of the truth is, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got a sweet tooth. I'll just eat fruit. I can eat fruit all day, whatever. But what I noticed, because I also have a daily yoga practice, and it's the Bikram yoga practice, which is the more intense physical heated practice, which is great because it's just across the road. And I noticed, and I've been doing, the Bikram for 21 years. And I noticed my knee was getting worse and worse. I'm like, because I'm a big believer that everything that manifests physically in our body is a result of our emotional health or some mental, choices, whatever. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I sort of left it, and then the other ones I started, and I'm like, no, this is totally not right. And I'd look into, is there something going forward? Could anything above the waist that is painful is the fear of moving forward? So I worked through all that. No, it's nothing. Anyway, cut a long story short, I ended up going to a kinesiologist saying, what is going on? Because, I knew it wasn't a emotional or a fear thing. And she said, oh, your liver's overloaded. And I'm like, what? I don't drink. She said, no. She said, it's overloaded with sugar. And to cut a long story short, apparently, I don't know all the details, but your liver interprets even fructose the same as processed sugar. And so it was so overloaded. So anyway, to cut a long story short, now the only fruit I eat are berries, but I eat sort of high protein and good fats and very low carb. And finally, that's done wonders for me. My knees are perfect. I've got absolutely nothing wrong with me physically. So to find, the sort of, and I think everyone is so different and with different, let's say, human origins, that not every diet works for everyone. So obviously the people that all the fruit worked for, fine, great, if you're thriving and have got no pain in your body, because every pain, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, is telling us that we're out of alignment with love. Now, whether that's love for someone else, love for ourselves, love for our bodies. So every time, like, it happens so infrequently now, but if I'm ever, say, an emotional chaos, or if I was, for example, to get a sore knee again, you're like, well, okay, well, what is it? And then you fix that. And so once your physical body is at peace, then we can come back into our heart space. Because again, any pain, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical, will keep us in our heads, and peace doesn't reside in our heads. It resides in our hearts, below the neck, in our bodies, right? So I did that. I do my yoga and Pilates. Got a pretty solid practice, probably at least 10 classes a week. And see, the thing is, I'm at a point in my life where I can afford time-wise to do this now. My kids are 22 and 24, so they've left home. I raised them as a single parent from 1 to 3, and there's no way I would have been able to dedicate this time or energy to myself when I was in that parenting phase. So everything just falls into place when it's needed. So I understand definitely that, not everyone can do it, but you've asked about my journey. So, that's what I'm sharing. And what else do I do? I don't meditate anymore because I see myself more as a walking meditation. I can slip into that space anytime. And usually you can do it just through gratitude. But if you have gratitude as an embodiment, you're just a walking meditation anyway.
Exactly. Grace is letting us know balance.
That's pretty much all I do. I don't, I've got the tools to ease mental chaos and emotional chaos. That's all been the human journey I've been doing for, 40 years plus. So it takes time. No one wakes up overnight, and I wouldn't say I'm in a good place, but I just love the growth and expansion and evolution. So, looking forward to what the next, 40 years I'd bring. So on that evolutionary path.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it sounds to me like self-care is what really brings you a lot of your peace. Is taking care of all four facets of your life so you're able to show up for others.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I even have to take care of them now because they're an embodiment. It's just me. It's just what I do, just slowly, one at a time, you just incorporate something into your life and, it becomes a habit. And so it's not even as if I have to say, oh, and, I've got to do some self-care now. Some days I just chill out and do absolutely nothing, but I don't care because the feminine is introverted in her heart space. We don't have to be going out, do to find peace. Sometimes just sitting at home being happy in your own company, because if you can't be happy in your own company, who else the hell would want to hang out with you, right?
Exactly. No, I agree. I watched a very interesting TED Talk about that, and though the woman speaking she had gone through a divorce and some rough relationships, and I'll circle back in a minute. And she said the person you need to marry is yourself, because if you can't live with yourself, nobody else can live with you either.
Yeah, well, I also,
And
sorry, go on.
no, and I mean, I took that was like, oh, yeah, and it's like you're in yourself. This is your longest relationship in this lifetime. So
There's no running away. People try and escape through addictions or, whatever, but you can't escape, and life will be hell and chaotic until you can, marry yourself. I love that. I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So I see also our relationships outside of that individual betrothment as a reflection of where we are within too. Our relationships, or everyone will reflect that back to us, because our eyes are projector of our inner movie, right? How we see ourselves. They're not in a quantum realm. I'm sure we're just like, there's just one great big green screen, right? And we're just some little quantum speck in space, and the world is happening inside of us, and we then project that onto the green screen of life.
nice. I like that. That's a great. I love that.
Yeah.
So, as you're finding peace and doing the things that help you find and be peaceful, how do you bring peace to others?
Well, again, it's not actually doing anything, it's being, just by being me, because it's taken me a long time to also find my authentic niche. And I think that, and I know from when I interviewed this 100 men, the reoccurring theme that came up is to find your authenticity, embody it, and be happy with it, because we're all so unique. Like, so many people trying to be like other people, but when you actually find your unique gift, and as I said, I only found mine just over 7 years ago, but I know, there's people that write a bit like me, but no one writes exactly like me. And I know that is my uniqueness. And now I fell in love with that, because I love her poetry, so it's and the gift that's brought me. So to find your authenticity and just be your authenticity, bring your creative authentic gifts to the world, that is bringing then your peace to others, and they have the choice to accept it or not. It doesn't matter, because as I said, the gift is in us giving it, right?
Absolutely. I totally understand that. From a different vantage points. I have so many people saying, "Oh, so and so is doing that. You should do that." Or so and so is doing this. You should do this. And that's not going to work for me because it doesn't resonate with me. So I understand what you were saying. It's like I'm going to go be me, and I'm going to attract my tribe and my people, and those people are attracting who belong to them.
Imagine if we were all the same, how boring life would be, right? And this is the other part of the journey when we come into sort of our awakening healing journey, and we can see the profound effects it's having on us, of course, we want to share that with the world. And, I used to tell everyone, oh, you've got to do yoga. Bikram yoga is so brilliant. And they'll say, yeah, but I'm not flexible. You don't have to be flexible. And I think the yoga for my journey was also a big part of the masculine and feminine, because it's strength and flexibility, right? And you do both sides and you do certain poses. So I know that was definitely a part of my personal mission and embodiment, but it's not for everyone. And even though I don't see anyone it would harm, but, so I've stopped trying to get everyone to do yoga, right? Because I understand everyone will find their way at the right time. Everything is in divine perfection. I mean, who are we to say that anyone should be doing anything when, it's how do we know what's good for them, what's good for us? Even if someone's homeless and sitting on the street or turns to alcohol or addiction, how do we know that's not the rock bottom they need to hit to be the amazing divine soul that they're going to evolve into? So it's not for us to judge. It's not for anyone to pick up that drunk off the floor and say, get a life. Let them be, let them do everything in their own divine timing, because again, who are we to know? I mean, we understand such a small pinhole of reality, of energy. I mean, what is it like? We can only see 1% of the colors that exist, or the sounds. Animals can hear different sounds to us. So what the hell do we know? Let people live their lives and just focus on us and our journey, because it's us being the embodiment of peace that then brings that very high frequency to the world, where you can literally just sit and be. And again, the people around you are being profoundly affected just by your frequency and vibration, even though it's not visible.
Yes, I agree 100%. And while I agree 100%, I also remember that, as you remember, we are human. So sometimes it's really hard, especially as someone in the healing field. I want to help everybody. I'm not gonna say I don't. I'm so guilty. But there have been times where even my sister, whom she loves me dearly and I want to help her, she's told me step off. She's like,
Yeah.
and I have to respect that.
It's a really big thing. But again, us trying to change someone else is why? Because we say it's to help them, but it's because we're feeling uneasy. It's we're feeling maybe guilty that we didn't give them, money, or give them a room in our home, or it's putting us at unease on some level, so it's really all about control again. So, you ask yourself, why do you want to help this person? What's in it for me? Do I want to feel superior? Do I want to show them, hey, I've done the inner work and you haven't? There's so many aspects to this. So let them be. Trust their higher selves. Their divine spark has got them, right? They didn't like us. They didn't come in without their own guardian angels, and they are divine light. And what did they choose for their reincarnation in this life, right? They chose the milestones so that they could learn the lessons they wanted to learn. And would they do that or not? That's their journey. I mean, who the hell are we to tell them to do differently?
That's a very good point. So it's very, it's, I'm guilty of the like Mike syndrome. Like, oh, we can be like Mike, or, and when they say that out here in the States, they mean Michael Jordan. Like, be like Michael Jordan, and it was a big thing in the 90s. But I have done a lot of research into like the certain personality types, and mine is always a giver and a helper. And so it's hard to step away, but and doing the work, I have learned to do that. Like you're saying, you've done the work, so you've learned to do that. So you give me hope.
Yeah, I've never been. I'm very ground. I mean, I know I'm celestial, but I'm very grounded as a Capricorn, right? Earth sign. So I've never been into all those human labels and analysis. I've never done my I don't know, all those things that people say they're projectors or they're this and they're that. And I mean, yeah, I just said I was a Capricorn, but I'm not using it as a Capricorn. I just said it because I know I know myself that I'm so grounded and stable while also being up there. But so I don't give myself a label because, like you just said, it limits you. Why do you need a label? Why do you need to know you're a healer or a projector or whatever else they call themselves, or these fancy letters? Why? Why put a label on it and limit yourself? Why can't you be everything? So I've never been into all that stuff, labels and that, and that's what works for me. I'm everything and nothing. Nothing. I like being nothing more than everything because with nothing, you've got the space for everything to come in, right?
I love that. I love that. I want to use that. Send that to me. Use that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite questions I like to ask is what's in your toolbox? So, say one of your kids comes to you, they're really stressed out, and you know your kids better than anybody. As a mom, I know my son. He thinks I don't know him. I know him better than he knows himself at times. What's in your toolbox to calm your child down and help them to just kind of take a minute, come back to reality and focus on, what they need to do next?
Okay, what age are you talking about? Because now they're 22 and 24, so obviously different from when they were 2 and 4. What age do you want?
Let's go with those hard to deal with tween years, 10, 11, 13.
Okay, well, I can talk about this retrospect. And even though all I ever wanted to be was a mum, and I did it, I know I did it better alone than if I'd have stayed married. But and I also knew, even though I'm not saying I was perfect in any way, I also knew I never wanted to have any regrets because you get one chance at this. And I never wanted to look back at the age I am now and wish I'd done anything differently. So I know I did everything the best I could at the time. But that is a difficult age. And it's on top of a time when you're working, obviously, as a single mum. You've got lots of extracurricular activities, where to be and what to do, football, swimming, whatever they're doing. And you've also got their homework, their schooling. There's a hell of a lot going on. And in retrospect, if I could have changed anything, it's easy to say from where I am today, but I would have just sat down and learned to listen to them more. Because at the end of the day, like anyone, often when people talk, they don't want advice from you, but it's a means of external processing, right? And you can ask certain questions where they arrive at their own choices. But all in all, my kids were, they didn't have a lot of problems. They sailed pretty easily through those years, even though they are so hectic those years, just trying to do everything. But I guess just sitting down and giving them that time, connecting, making them know, letting them know you're there and they feel love, because it's not just what you're doing for them. They don't understand taking them, 20 kilometres to football or, to a football match every Saturday and training twice a week and 6 a.m. swimming and whatever else you're doing. They don't really appreciate that, but they'll remember the times you sat down and listened when they needed us.
No, I do notice that with my own son. He's like, I give him that space. I listen to him. And I also sit there and go, sometimes I'm dumbfounded by the things he's trusting me with, but I give him that space so that he knows that he can come back to me. There's always that moment to come back and verbally try and figure things out.
I'll say this because this is only something I've learned very recently. As I said, we often do want to give advice because we see ourselves as further evolved on our human healing journey than maybe someone else. But I think I've learned now to always ask someone, would you like my advice? Not just blurt it out, right? And emotionally vomit your advice. Ask them. And I think even for children, as a respectful way to say, if you listen to it and they're finished listening, zip your mouth, finish listening, you could say, well, would you like my advice? Or are you just, expressing yourself?
Yeah, no, I've gotten better at not giving advice unless what he's telling me warrants advice that he needs to be aware of. Like,
Well, that's
please
true.
don't do that. That's the mom. You got to raise them. But for the
Yeah,
most part, I just give him that time to talk. Like I
yeah,
said, I'm surprised by some of the things he trusts me with, but I'm okay with it because I've always told him he can come to me with
yeah,
anything.
yeah. And my
So
kids
if he can't trust me with the small stuff, he won't trust me with the big stuff.
well, that's the thing too. I think, you never know anything that your kid's hidden from you, but, on the whole, because they were always accepted and valued, I'm pretty sure they told me everything that I needed to know. I say that very naively, but, I knew enough about what was going on while also allowing them their independence to grow and make their own mistakes, because we all, as much as painful as it is when kids are going through any emotional pain, we all did it. I mean, I didn't have, I went through hell in my younger years, but you learn from it. And in retrospect, you can see what's made us the amazing people we are today.
Yes, when you speak about, making the mistakes and going through the hell, um, as I did myself, but with my son, I try and take a humorous approach or get him to think a little bit differently when he'll tell me something and I go, "How is this a good idea?" "Oh, Frankie, so and so." If it was somebody else's, if you start off with somebody else's name, it was probably not a good idea. I don't think you
Right.
guys thought it through. Or he'll do something and he'll react a certain way. He'll get himself into a pickle and what have you. And afterward, it's like, okay, well, what did we learn from this? What did you learn from this?
Especially with boys, again, they can't learn how to be a man from their mum. So, really good to send them to, male mentors or family members or someone they can actually talk about growing up to being a man, because, the men don't have, on the whole, the initiation ceremonies, and, they were all focused on pain and bringing you down to rock bottom so then you could build up and be stronger, right? So our society doesn't have those on the whole anymore. So, really important to connect, especially the boys, with good role models.
I agree. And as a single mom myself, it's kind of hard to find those role models outside of uncles and grandpas. But
Good,
we got them, and they work. And
good.
so I want to thank you, Gemma, for coming on and talking peace with me today. I am so grateful.
My pleasure. Thank
And
you for having me.
I would love to have you on again at some point to discuss poetry and peace. So we'll
Okay.
we'll see how we can coordinate that. We're just going to put Gemma in the green room for a moment, and I would like to um, ask everybody to join me again on Sunday when I have Anzelika Steen Olsen on. She is a Russian born New Yorker. She grew up in communist Russia for quite a bit of her life before coming over to the States. She is a fierce humanitarian, philanthropist, and has a lot of great causes that she brings attention to, but she is also going to talk about how all of that brings her peace. So remember to join me on Sunday morning and when we talk to Angelica. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.